And here now, what are you gonna do now? I'm gonna bid on here now. Who bid $500,000 bid?
Welcome to the Legacy of Agriculture. This program will explore the past, present, and future of agriculture. We'll look at the people, products, and events that have formed its history. And now, with today's guest, your host, Chris Bair.
Good morning and welcome everybody to America's Land Auctioneer. I'm your host, Andy Mrnak, America's Land Auctioneer, here this morning on this fine Saturday morning. And I tell you what, most of you guys realize that we have regional auction facilities at Piper's Auction Realty and Land Management. We have regional auction facilities scattered throughout the upper Midwest. Of course, we got the one where I reside at in Bowman, North Dakota. We've got a tremendous facility at Piper's Auction Center of North America in Steele, North Dakota, which we had an auction sale just a couple of weeks ago. And then, of course, we've got our newest and most state-of-the-art facility with hands down the most technology that we've got in any of our facilities right here where we're broadcasting live today in our Piper's Sioux Falls Regional Auction Facility in Worthing, South Dakota, just outside of Worthing, South Dakota, right on I-29. Tremendous visibility right here on exit 64, just south of Sioux Falls, a few miles. And I tell you what, we're sitting here side by side with Piper's regional auction manager. He's our land manager, land and equipment auction manager down here in Sioux Falls, and his name's Chris Bair. Been with us for about 4 years now, Chris. And it's a pleasure to be down here in Sioux Falls. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you coming down. It's always a treat to have you guys from the north come down and show us how it's done. And it's been a great couple of days to be able to travel with you. And we had a great land auction yesterday that you were the auctioneer of, and we got along really good and had a good day and got everything signed here this morning. And thank you for having me on.
The majority of our at least radio listeners, and the podcast listeners are scattered nationwide, but our radio listeners here this morning on K-Fire 550 and 1100 The Flag and our other syndicated shows. But I tell you what, a lot of them are really in tune with what's happening in North Dakota. I think today we want to talk about some of the 2024 results that we've seen across our entire marketing region that Piper's extends through between Montana and North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin. We do a lot of land auctions throughout the upper Midwest, and we're going to start diving into some of your expertise right here in South Dakota. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been just a tremendous year, and here we are wrapping up 2024. We're at the tail end of our 11th month and getting into December. It's been a tremendous year with a lot of data to review as we get into what we're going to call the holiday break and start making our projections for 2025. But all in all, I would say 2024 had a lot of uncertainty coming into this year. But as we progress through the year, the economic indicators that should have shown maybe a little bit of a twist in both the land and the equipment markets, it looks to me like the economic indicators at least proved to be almost irrelevant. Not completely irrelevant, but almost irrelevant when it comes to the land and equipment auctions markets in the upper Midwest. I've always said we kind of have a little bit of a cushion, compared to the whole national landscape. In North and South Dakota, we've always had that cushion. It's not quite as volatile. The national news doesn't affect our markets overnight. If there's a leg in the economy, usually we're about 6 months behind that leg. If there's a big boost in the economy, maybe we're a couple months behind that strong push and strong boost. But the nice thing about land markets and what we've always said is that you never get that immediate volatility. There would have to be an absolute correction or crash in some sort of unforeseen economic indicator rather than just what generally would take into consideration, your commodity values, your commodity prices, your overall yields, and your crop prices and net farm income. But then, of course, everybody was starting to look at what is happening with interest rates. In 2022, 2023, interest rates started to come back on the rise, and there was a lot of questions as to how producers were gonna handle that. And if you take everybody, basically any operator that is, I'm gonna put myself in this category, right? Anybody under the age of 45, most of us who have taken out operating notes or have been producing in agriculture, if you're under the age of 45, you haven't paid to borrow money. Borrowing money has been relatively inexpensive.
That really is true. And you talk about economic indicators. It really is true here in the Midwest, where we're not only are we right almost in the center of the United States, Andy, but we're in the center of North America. So you take into consideration Canada, United States, it's a long ways to us from either the west coast or from the east coast, and our agriculturists in this area are tough. They know how to weather the storms, and they know how to get things done, and so they do a tremendous job marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as we look at economic indicators and what we've expressed here for the last few months is obviously there's always uncertainty in an election year, right?
Yep.
And here we are past the election now. We've seen what the results are. We know what's happening, and we kind of now have our expectations what's going to go into 2025 and beyond. This is not a political show by any means, so we're not going to get into any
Nope.
hoorays or poor me's regarding any specific election races. But we are in South Dakota, and we want to give kudos to our South Dakota senator for what he's accomplished in the last couple of weeks and being named as the Senate Majority Leader, Mr. John Thune, and that's exciting. John Thune came to an event right here in our Sioux Falls regional office here in Worthing, South Dakota, just a few months ago.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, WNX Radio out of Yankton, South Dakota, used our Piper facility to do their 100-year celebration, and both Mike Rounds and John Thune were here in our auction theater, and we had the opportunity to shake hands and visit with both of those great leaders.
Yep, absolutely. And so we're past the election. We've now become a little bit more accustomed to what's happening on the interest scales. And really, what we're seeing here lately, the federal effective rate on interest, which is your overnight borrowing rate for your local banks, it's come off about 0.4 of a point here in the last month. It's down to about 4.5%. The Fed is looking at 3, maybe even 4 quarterly decreases in interest as we progress over the next year. I think we're going to get maybe back into a more realistic version of what it's going to cost us to borrow money, specifically on your operating notes or on your land notes and your 30-year mortgages and so on and so forth. So I think we're going to see a lot of positive return as far as our positive outlook as to what the land and equipment market is, what the overall real estate market is, as it reflects interest rate specific. But again, when interest rates hit 6, 7, 8%, I believe it took a few of the buyers out of the market. The buyers that were left in the market didn't seem to have a difference of opinion of the current market value of that property. So the land that was selling at auctions, we didn't really see a negative impact or a negative reaction to the land in 2024. And actually, as we got deeper into the 2024 fall run of land auctions, and I believe we had over 70 land auctions from September 1st to December 1st, in that fall run, they continued to get stronger every single sale that we did. And I think we're seeing a lot of confidence in the land market across the upper Midwest.
Not only stronger in the value, but there seemed to be depth in the buyers. There's the one thing that I am really pleased with the land auctions right now, Andy, is as an auctioneer and as a land auction manager, you have to look out into your crowd and say, where are my buyers? You have to identify those buyers. And the buyers right now, 10 years ago, were mostly investors. They're looking at buying and flipping land, or wholesalers that were buying, or people that were buying, bidders that were buying for other people. But now, as you look into the crowd now, the majority of your bidders that are registering and the majority of your buyers are contiguous landowners, or they're landowners that are close enough that they can efficiently farm that ground and add it to their own acreage. And really, at the end of the day, that's who we want. We want to see agriculture continue to grow, and that's a great indicator of a positive movement amongst our producers.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I don't have the numbers specifically in front of me, so I shouldn't spout any statistics. But when I first started in the auction business, specifically the land auction business in 2007, 2008, there was consistently a 30 to 35, 40% buyer market for non-production buyers. Okay, your absentee landowners that were coming in, buying land for either recreational purposes, or they were buying it for investment purposes and turning around and releasing it to a local farm producer or operator or a friend of theirs. And that number was staggering as we started getting into 2008, 2009, when the next land rush happened in 2013, 14. that number started to deplete quite a bit. And we started seeing the land investor percentage get under that 10% for the first time in a long time. Yeah. And so when we got from the 80s, your return on investment on agricultural real estate was between 8 and 10%. We started getting into the 2000s, it started getting down to that 4 to 6%. And now as we start working our way into the 2020s, 2022, 23, now we're in 24, it is not unrealistic to see return on investment on land for pasture land in my part of the world and on the western side of our region at 1.5 to 2%. Cropland across the region 2.5 to 4%. And so it has taken a big swing of the investor pool out of it. So the strength in the market has definitely come from your local producers.
Without any question. And the other thing that's an indicator, Andy, as the return on investment number shrinks, that tells me that the bidders are stronger and stronger and stronger all the time. If you have one bidder that is getting an 8% return, then you know that the depths of your buyers aren't there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think the main reason we still have a strong investor basis from our buyers, from a buyer's perspective, is the security in buying into North and South Dakota or Minnesota farmland or Iowa farmland or Nebraska down in this portion of the region, that there's a lot of security in making that purchase and having that as a portion of your portfolio. It really just muscle builds your portfolio. You're looking at overall land appreciation over time, and that's kind of the main focus.
Without any question, you're right.
Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to bring us kind of to the first stop here for America's Land Auctioneer on this beautiful Saturday morning. Before we take our break, we want to thank all of our sponsors, but first and foremost, Pfeiffer's Auction, Realty, and Land Management. At Pfeiffer's Auction, Realty, and Land Management throughout the upper Midwest, of course, we got regional auction facilities in Bowman, Steele, and Worthing, South Dakota, and we may have even another upcoming auction facility site coming up in the near future. We'll bring that more to you as time progresses here in 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions about your upcoming land or machinery sales, or if you're in the market to buy some land or machinery throughout the upper Midwest, call any one of the professionals here at Pfeiffer's Auction, Realty, and Land Management. Again, I'm Andy Mrnak, your host on this Saturday morning. We'll be right back after this break.
Hey, this is Jasmine at Pfeiffer's Auction, Realty, and Land Management. Pfeiffer's offers multiple ways to bid and buy at our equipment and land auctions. You can bid online, in person, or place pre-bids before the sale even starts. By providing convenient bidding platforms, we make sure that you can buy the items or parcels you want the way you want to. Visit Pfeiffers.com to see a complete list of our auctions. When it comes to bidding, go with Pfeiffer's. Nobody does it better.
Welcome back to America's Land Auctioneer. I'm your host this Saturday morning, Andy Mrnak, with Pfeiffer's Auction, Realty, and Land Management, your sponsors every Saturday on your favorite radio station and podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, or wherever else you find your podcasts anywhere, Chris. And on my drive home, I guess that's kind of what I like to listen to is podcasts for both your show, Legacy of Agriculture, and of course our show with America's Land Auctioneer. Listen to them all the time when I'm traveling down the road. I got a 9-hour drive home, so I can probably make it through a few episodes without falling asleep, I hope.
There's a lot of wind that passes over the top of our heads, right?
That's right. We touched in the first segment about kind of what the economic indicators are and what we've been looking at here lately that has been affecting the land and equipment market. And really, just to kind of recap, one major thing that we want to look at is that of all of the negative talk out there, of all the negative press and of all the negative things that everybody's talking about with the election season coming up, when it all unraveled and the election's now over with and everybody still woke up the next morning, right? You're still alive after the election.
Nobody died overnight.
That's right. That really, we had way more positivity in all of our markets across the board than all the negative media pressure was actually going to indicate that we were going to realize. So it was great to see that. And, a lot of the factors that always impact our markets is really, we deal with agriculture, right? So 99% of our buyer base or seller base is really, heavily involved or heavily invested in the agricultural business from top to bottom, whether they're farmers or ranchers or support operators or whatnot. And really, we always track what general net farm income is doing, both on a national scale as well as a local scale. How are interest rates becoming a factor? And we touched on interest rates a lot in the first segment. And then what is overall yield and commodity prices? How are they impacting not only just your local region, because North and South Dakota, there was a huge widespread gap between yields and productivity in 2024, probably as much as we've seen in many years past. On the western side of the region where I came from, really highly impacted by drought. One of the more drought-stricken regions that I've come across in the upper Midwest in 2024, and probably in the last few years. I know the extreme northeast corner of North Dakota was dry in 23. The extreme southwest corner of North Dakota and the northwest side of South Dakota was extremely dry in 24. So we always have those up and down swings throughout our region. There's a lot of different landscapes throughout the upper Midwest.
Well, not only that, if you talk about weather extremes, Andy, we had at the end of June and the 1st of July, we had 20 to 24 inches of rain in about a 10-day period here, and then it just turned off hot and dry. That was what created all the flooding from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, all the way down the Missouri River to where it junctions into the Mississippi River. And then it just turned off hot and dry, and so we had a major swing in commodities which we thought were drowned out crops. We weren't going to get any types of crops, to where the water went down, the water table came up. But in those hot, dry conditions, the end of July into August and September, when the crops were finishing, we actually had moisture and water table very high, which allowed the plant to reach the water, and then ideal growing seasons with lots of BTUs, and then drying conditions that brought us into a very easy harvest in a lot of ways, because the weather was perfect for harvesting. But we did see in some areas where unfortunately guys were drowned out. We're hearing some tough commodity yields, but as a rule of thumb, clear across our region, it was good and solid.
Without a doubt. And you see that positivity, or the positive reaction to a post-harvest, auction. And what we're about to see here coming up here in a few days here in our Sioux Falls regional facility right here with your December auction that's coming up. There's a lot of positivity, and the people that are walking through the yard here today, you can really see a lot of pep in their step. There was good yields, and there's been a solid year throughout this region. Now, I do want to touch on that on your extreme weather that you were talking about. Maybe if anybody doesn't remember, but in June this year, there was a 48-hour period where there was parts of Lincoln and Minnehaha and some of the surrounding counties here that experienced 12, 14 inches of rain in 48 hours.
Let me tell you how much rain was coming down. I was looking out my living room window at about 9:30 at night, getting ready to go to bed, and I noticed the lights were flickering, and I looked across the street at a transformer, and there was so much rain, and it was raining so hard that transformer was actually arcing. That's how much rain we were getting at one time, and that's how extreme it is. It was crazy. It was kind of eerie to watch in a way.
Oh, absolutely. And we looked in the cameras here that we have at our auction headquarters down here, and you could see, there was a few boxes and things that were rolling and floating throughout the water, and it's kind of an eerie feeling. And I know there were some drowned outs. It was early enough for a lot of guys to replant. There was some replanting that was done.
Cover crops.
Yep, a lot of cover crops that kind of came into play as well. And there's some protection there for our operators too. So as eerie as it probably looked, I think just looking across the countryside, it dried up at the right time. You didn't see anybody mudding their crops out of the field, I guess, for harvest.
Almost none.
Yeah, and you look at what's happened in North Dakota, and in the fall, there's always the opportunity for your sugar beet harvesters to start pulling the combines through the field, right? Or pulling the lifters through the field and pulling the trucks through the field. And there was none of that this year, so I can't imagine the expense that's saved on our producers when you have a good dry fall to take the harvest off, to take the crop off. We always have a dry harvest in Southwest.
Do you guys even know what rain is in Western North Dakota?
No, but I saw it yesterday when we were down here, so it was a welcome sign. Yeah, no. So there's a lot of those factors, and then another. Just talking to some producers this year, actually, another major expense that has been pretty minimal this year is their propane expense, trying to dry the crop down.
Yep.
We had a nice dry fall. The crops are drying naturally in the field. Taking them off, we're not trying to knock 3 or 4 points of moisture out of them in the bin. It's a lot easier to dry them in the field, and the extra expense. Really, you can talk $30 to $40 an acre of extra expense just in propane costs.
Without any question, you're 110% right. I had an interesting conversation with the service manager at one of the dealers on the Iowa side, and he says it was an interesting fall. The weather was so conducive to a great harvest. He says we sold a lot of wear parts for combines. He says, but we didn't hardly sell any drivetrain parts, which in a muddy year or wet year like what you're talking, you tear out a combine final drive or a transmission or a hydro because it's pulling so hard. He says that was almost non-existent. He says, but the crop was good enough. He says lots of wear parts, chopper knives, you had augers, cross augers, paddles in elevators, that type of stuff happened to be the hot item to sell this year during the harvest.
Yep. And then on Tuesday, we had an opportunity to go down to the Sioux Falls Regional Livestock Auction here and watch some of the fat cattle sell. In our part of the world, again, in North Dakota, across the state, you don't see a lot of fat cattle going across the scale. Kind of interesting, every time I go to Sioux Falls Regional, the general rule of thumb is always that a pot load of cattle is what brings the extra value. Well, down here, if they're a half a dozen or a dozen or just a single, 24-foot trailer load of fat cattle, boy, they're bringing extremely good value. So the fat market on the live market, which we, again, in North Dakota, we don't see that very often. So it's kind of fun to watch how the fat cattle go across the scale down here in Sioux Falls. And it's a really good market. We've got some good slaughter facilities that are within a 100-mile radius of here. So that's why you start to see it a little bit more as you get into this part of the region. But really a solid market, watching 1,500-pound fat steers go across the scale at $1.90 a pound. And what that market has done and what the feeder market has done, and now we're looking at what the wean calf market's doing, and we're starting to get into the fall and what we're going to expect for bred cattle. And the upper Midwest, I think, is going to reap a huge benefit this year as we start realizing what kind of strength is actually in this livestock market. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be back right after this break for more of America's Land Auctioneer. Today's segment is brought to you by Pifer's Auction Realty and Land Management. Nobody does it better. Pifer's Auction Realty and Land Management with your regional auction facilities in Bowman, Steele, and Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We've got lots of sales coming up here, the balance of 2024, and a lot of sales on the books in 2025. You can see all of Pifer's Auction Realty and Land Management auctions, details, and online bidding is all available at pifers.com. We'll be right back after this break.
Hey, this is Jasmine at Pifer's Auction Realty and Land Management. Pifer's offers multiple ways to bid and buy at our equipment and land auctions. You can bid online, in person, or place pre-bids before the sale even starts. By providing convenient bidding platforms, we make sure that you can buy the items or parcels you want the way you want to. Visit pifers.com to see a complete list of our auctions. When it comes to bidding, go with Pifers. Nobody does it better.
Welcome back to America's Land Auctioneer. I'm your host this Saturday morning, Andy Mrnak with Pifer's Auction Realty and Land Management, sitting side by side again with Chris Bair, your Sioux Falls Regional Manager for Pifer's Auction and Realty right down here in Worthing, South Dakota, our regional facility in the southeast quadrant of our market region. But I tell you what, from this point of view, you have the ability to cover 4 major states of agriculture right here with South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, and of course northeast Nebraska, and those markets have always been really strong for us as far as bringing equipment into our regional auction facility right here, as well as the land markets. Of course, probably the strongest land markets in all of America when it comes to farmland, right here in 50 to 100 mile radius of right where we're sitting.
Geographically, Andy, Sioux Falls is just almost a hub for all of agriculture here in the United States. If you look at I-90 that goes through here from east to west, west to east, and I-29 that goes from basically from Winnipeg all the way to Dallas, as we are in the epicenter of agriculture here in Sioux Falls. Absolutely love this market.
Absolutely. In the break, we were talking about the livestock markets and really the strength of that. And I think we're going to start seeing the propulsion of the livestock industry for the next few years. We've had strong markets for a couple of years, but what most people don't realize is that's not just an overnight flip of the switch for the American rancher. They deal with 2 out of 10 years being really good years, and they deal with 5 years to be average, and then of course there's always 3 or 4 years that are below average. So when you have 2 or 3 really good years in a row, it really allows you to play catch up for the previous 8. And now, hopefully, if we can continue, what I'm going to say is year 3 of a 5 to 6 year stretch here in a positive livestock market, we're going to start seeing a lot of the American ranchers start making some progressive moves as we get into 25, hopefully 26, and see what they do as far as expanding their footprint as we start moving into the next couple of years. There's going to be a lot of opportunity, I think, in the livestock markets. We're also talking about how I guess how much more of a proponent this region is for fat cattle, and why we don't see that in the Bowman auction market or at Kiss Livestock in Mandan or across the upper Midwest region. And the main reason is very few people are feeding fat cattle, all that we're taking feeder steers and feeding them all the way through the whole finished product in North Dakota, because the freight is so expensive to get them to the final market or the final.
Is that right? That's an interesting point. That if you're feeding feeder cattle, they're cheaper to transport. You can transport more of them than it is our market here.
Yeah. So right now, we've been looking at the markets here in Bowman, North Dakota, and Monday's market report showing that 580 pound feeder calves. So keep in mind, 580 pounds, you can put 100 of them on a load, right? So now you can ship that 100-pound load to Sioux Falls area, get them into a good feed yard where it's cheaper to ship the cattle to feed than it is to ship the feed to cattle. So coming from Bowman, North Dakota, you can send 500-pound calves to Sioux Falls where there's a lot of corn and a really close end market for those calves.
Andy, being a row crop guy and growing up in the row crop industry and spending all of my career really in the row crop industry, to a certain degree, I never knew that. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, and it's you start seeing it all across the upper Midwest and all the way through the Corn Belt. There's a lot of farmer feeders in Iowa that come up to North Dakota in the fall, really on this fall calf run, and buying a lot of calves to feed their excess corn crops that they've had for the last few years. Now, especially when corn prices are lower, you start seeing a lot more of that, and because they want to if they can put an extra, well, any sort of monetary value, if they can put extra value on their corn price by feeding it through cattle with just a little bit extra labor, of course they can take cattle to fats and reap that benefit. And now we're watching this market right now with $2,700-$2,800 fat cattle going across the scale in Sioux Falls Regional Livestock just yesterday on Tuesday, or last week on Tuesday. And what we're seeing on the live market up in I'm looking at Bowman auctions prices right now. 585 cattle going off the board at 314. There's some 456 weight black steers that went off the board at 369. Some 434 pound black steers at 389, and really tickling $4 per pound as you get into the mid threes to 400 pound calves.
Do you think we're going to see some $4 calves?
We have some $4 calves, but you're not going to see $4 7-weight calves. At least not for the immediate future. I've never seen it. We've seen a lot of $3.50 and $4 calves over the course of history. I sold it at a couple of sale barns for 11 years, and that market over a decade can swing from one direction to the other, up and down so fast. And that's why, when we say we're a little more immune to market swings in the upper Midwest or in North and South Dakota, the livestock industry is not. That is a board traded every day. You're in that market, and you have a perishable product.
Right.
You can't throw them in a grain bin and keep them till next year until their price rallies. So you're really at the mercy of the market. You may be able to fluctuate between a week or two, and hopefully you can protect yourself on the boards. There's a lot of risk management that goes into play especially when you're taking feeder cattle and going through the fat markets and trying to figure out what your transportation costs are going to be. There's a few of us on the western side of North Dakota that do finish cattle up there and take them to the 1,500 pound range, ship them all the way to Colorado to the end market, and then basically you're at their mercy trying to get your extra premium. If you have a premium product to put them on the rail, you can get extra bonuses for your quality and your yield. So if you can sell them on the grid and you've got a good premium product, there's always a little bit of bonus value in that as well. Lots of programs out there that guys are taking advantage of, and certifications and all naturals and organic type programs that are out there. There's a lot of great things that are happening in the livestock industry, and a lot of progressive moves I believe are going to be made in the next year or two.
What's your prediction of what's going to happen in the cattle market over the next 12 to 24 months, Andy? I know that you're into the purebred business, the Hereford purebred business, and you guys know everybody. Everywhere I go in the Dakotas, people know Andy. They know the Mrnak name. They know your Herefords. They know you. But what does your crystal balls tell you that's going to happen over the next 12 to 24 months?
It's a very good question, and I hope nobody's sitting here recording this. I know it's being recorded, but I'm going to hold my feet to the fire on it. The livestock industry is obviously pretty volatile, so there's always the opportunity at some sort of media storm or video that pops up from 15 years ago, right? That we've seen 3 or 4 or 5 different times over the course of history that seem to affect the markets. But all in all, the perfect storm kind of happened in 2020, 21, 22. But basically from Canada to Mexico, there was a massive drought across the major livestock production region of the United States, and we saw a lot of cattle numbers come off the top of that. And as we saw natural inflation hit virtually every market from 21 to 23, it was kind of the perfect storm where we had natural inflation happening. We have a shortage of numbers. We have a shortage of numbers of the calves that are hitting the market. There's obviously a lot of pent-up demand. There's more demand for beef, I believe, in America today, basically because we still have a luxury product. Okay, beef is always going to be king. Now, it's easy to go buy a substitute product. It's easy to go to the store and buy a pork loin. It's easy to go buy some chicken wings or whatever the case may be, and that's a great thing too. That's all part of agriculture. We want that full circle, but beef is always king. It's always your luxury product.
Sure.
And so we always have demand. And the more we can continually improve that demand, the stronger our market's going to be. And then, of course, we're looking at over the past 3 or 4 years with pent-up supply and trying to rebuild this supply. It's going to take a few years, and I believe it's going to hold our market as strong as we've seen for probably maybe 15 or 20 years. And so the next 12 to 18 months, I think, are going to be exciting. I think we've got a great fall product coming off pastures right now, and we're seeing the benefits of them hitting the markets right here in November and December. We're going to have an exciting January and February as we watch what happens as we get closer to bull sale season and get closer into the markets where cattle are selling off of a backgrounding program rather than right off the cow. And then as we get into the fall of next year, I think we're going to see the same thing and maybe a little stronger.
And not only that, but you're seeing a lot of feed. I mean, the corn crop was good. Soybean acres were up. Soybean yields were average to a little bit above average in a lot of places. A lot of feed out there.
Without a doubt. And that's the end of our third segment, ladies and gentlemen. This is Andy Mrnak with America's Land Auctioneer for this fine Saturday morning, side by side with Chris Bair, Pifer's Auction, Realty, and Management Land Manager right here out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We'll be right back after this break.
Hey, this is Jasmine at Pifer's Auction, Realty, and Land Management. Pifer's offers multiple ways to bid and buy at our equipment and land auctions. You can bid online, in person, or place pre-bids before the sale even starts. By providing convenient bidding platforms, we make sure that you can buy the items or parcels you want the way you want to. Visit Pifers.com to see a complete list of our auctions. When it comes to bidding, go with Pifers. Nobody does it better.
Welcome back to America's Land Auctioneer. I'm your host, Andy Mrnak, America's Land Auctioneer this fine Saturday morning. We've had a tremendous show here for the first 3 segments, and we're kind of coming into the home stretch, Chris. I'm sitting by Chris Bair in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, live from our Worthing facility for Pifer's Auction, Realty, and Land Management. This is our regional office in just outside of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and it's always a pleasure to be here. The weather's always beautiful, and the wind's never blowing here. They seem to get rain. It rained again, and it's just kind of fun to see the positive atmosphere that always surrounds this crew right down here in Sioux Falls. We talked a lot about the markets. We've talked a lot about what we saw happening in 2024. Let's kind of finish the segment here, Chris, with what's exciting, what's left in 2024, and maybe we can touch on a few sales in 2025 while we're at it. Kind of some of the statistics I wanted to share with you. From September 1st to December 1st, Pifer's Auction and Realty and Land Management and Equipment Auctions, we held 77 land auctions from September 1st to December 1st. We have 7 land auctions left here in December. We have over 7,000 acres coming up already on the books in 2025. So a lot of great sales happening and a lot of great things happening within Pifer's Auction and Realty. And I tell you what, anytime you have a question or anytime you have spare time, feel free to browse through any of our upcoming sales at pifers.com. Full details, inventory, and online bidding is available on every single auction that we have. And I believe as we wrap up 2024, we're going to be in excess of 220, 230 auctions for the year. So it's been an exciting year. We got a lot of things looking up for the future. 2025 is going to bring a lot of positive things here as well. Chris, we've got a lot of great equipment sales coming up here in December of 24. Let's start with your sale right here in Worthing. It's going to happen on December 3rd.
Andy, we're just a few weeks away from our last and final equipment auction of 2024, and we're very, very excited about it. We've got over 700 lots that we're going to be selling. And those of you that have been down to our Southern Dakota facility just south of Sioux Falls on I-29, just off exit 64, we've got two of the most beautiful theaters that we can sell machinery in anywhere in the upper Midwest. And we're very, very proud of our facility here south of Sioux Falls. The nice thing about our facility, Andy, is regardless, there's several things actually. First of all, it's going to be a live auction with live auctioneers, and we have some of the finest auctioneers in the country. I honestly believe that. And you'll be selling, Jeff Polk will be selling. I don't know whether Kevin is going to make it down to our sale or not, but some of the best auctioneers. And it doesn't matter whether it's raining, snowing, 105 degrees outside. We're going to be inside in a climate controlled theater with free donuts and free coffee. And all you got to do is grab a BIS number, and you're going to enjoy a good day with this. But to talk a little bit about some of the machinery that we've got to sell here in our facility, and our 10 acres is almost packed clear full. We've got probably 100 skid steer attachments that we're going to be selling. All kinds of items, from tillage items to planting items to trucks, over the road trucks. We've got curtain trailers, truck trailers. We have got van trailers, we have got hopper bottom trailers, tractors, anything that you can imagine, we've got it right here. And our guys right now are working around the clock, not quite 7 days a week, but they're working a good 5-6 days a week right now to get descriptions up on the internet, to get them up on our webpage, and all the pictures, all the information to give buyers from all over the United States and North America information. And what's most exciting about Sioux Falls, Andy, and we're seeing that in the 4 years that we've been here, is we have had buyers from Florida to California. We've had buyers from Montana, Washington, Oregon, all the way to North and South Carolina. And so as technology is improving and as the power of the auction industry is improving, we're able to market out further and further all the time. And so we're excited about our December sale. We're anticipating a great sale. We're anticipating that both theater number 1 and theater number 2 are going to be chock full of people, just like they were in August when we had our pre-harvest sale. And I think we're going to have a great sale. We got great products. We got a great load-out crew. If you buy something, come and join us. We'll take care of you from beginning to end.
And there's nothing better than going to the live auction and actually being in front of the facility and feeling the momentum and feeling the excitement. But for those of them, of our buyers and bidders and onlookers that can't make it, obviously they're still available to watch on 2 separate auction platforms, and that's been a huge benefit, would you not say?
Without any question. And the further south you go, the stronger both the Equipment Facts platform combined with the Next Lot platform is now penetrating buyers that each wouldn't have had and each would have had. And so all of a sudden we are creating the perfect storm to market and to sell equipment. And our biggest and freest marketing advantage that we have here in Sioux Falls, and you could probably hear it through the microphones, is the freeway that's just outside. And we've got people that are traveling from Winnipeg, again, clear to Dallas, Texas, Kansas City, Omaha, that drive by. They go down to the Canton exit, they turn around and they come back and they drive through our yard. We sold a wheel loader just a couple of auctions ago that brought I believe it was $184,000. A truck driver was driving by, he saw it, he had a cattle operation in Billings, he came in, bought the next day, and took that loader home, put it to work.
You can really feel the momentum switch in South Dakota. We've been in this facility almost 4 years, and you go from being the new kid on the block to, oh my gosh, we kind of like how these guys do it too. Having like, how do we get this lot full, to now where do we find more land?
Right.
That's really kind of the topic of conversation right now. We're a few years away from having to do some major expansions down here, but I'm excited to see the crowd that keeps continually coming back and supporting this operation down here. A few of the key items here, we've got some skid steers that are like brand new. There's a couple of really of refurbished case plows that are kind of cool as you're driving through.
Model 700.
Got the Model 700 and a 770. I got the W20 wheel loader out here. Just a lot of great things that you mentioned here. Full inventory details at Pfeifers.com, ladies and gentlemen. Also on the following day, December 4th, you guys have the Ring 3 is going to be an online only. Got some smaller items here that we're just not going to try to cram into the live auction the day before, but you're welcome to come down on December 2nd and 3rd and take a look through that entire inventory there as well, and you can bid at Pfeifers.com. Also on December 4th, we have got a tremendous farm estate auction. That's going to be an online only sale happening near Halliday, North Dakota, up by Twin Buttes. Really good family operation up there. Pete Fredericks, it's his farm estate. We got a John Deere 6195R tractor up there. We've got a 9520T. We got a TV 140 bidirectional and a pair of New Holland speed rowers. One's a 130 and the other one's a 2016 160. There's a UW 56 tool cat. That's a 2023 model, barely been used, and a lot of good ATVs, UTVs, and lots of livestock equipment. He was a tremendous rancher up there, ran a heck of an operation up there by Twin Buttes, and I tell you what, we've got all of his equipment going to be offered, and that is at Pfeifers.com, and that entire sale is going to be online only on December 4th. Any questions, feel free to contact Jim Sabby or John Soride at 701-523-7366. Now, I'm going to end today's segment with probably the most exciting sale that Pfeiffer's Auction has seen in really the history of its equipment division. And we've had a lot of tremendous sales, retirement sales, and equipment auctions throughout the upper Midwest in our tenure here in the last 20 years. But I tell you what, none more exciting than the Gillespie Farms Partnership Farm Retirement Auction just outside of Fergus Falls, Minnesota. And if you haven't seen the inventory on this, ladies and gentlemen, you need to get to Pfeifers.com today and check it out right away. We're going to give you kind of a run through here real quick. We got a 2014 4430 Patriot sprayer, 1,000 hours on it. We got a 2018 Case Steiger 620 quad track. It's a 2018 with 2,370 hours. We've got another 620 quad track. We've got a John Deere 9620 RX 4 tracks. That's a 2018 with 3,600 hours. A 2018 580 quad track. We've got another 580 quad track, 2,390 hours. 540 quad track, 450 quad track. Two 485 quad tracks. We got a 9560 RT straight track. Our angle track, we got a 8230 front wheel assist, a 275 case Magnum front wheel assist tractor. Got a couple of utility tractors, the MX 120 and IH 95 Farmall. Tremendous tractors. It's going to be an unbelievable sale right there outside of Fergus Falls, Minnesota. Now, there's a pair of 2014 9230 combines. We've got all their headers and platforms and attachments to go with that. These combines are decked out, loaded up. They're on tracks, sitting with 2,000 separator hours on them. Both of them, one's a little over 2,000, one's a little under 2,000. We got a 2019 John Deere 210G LC excavator, almost like new. It's going to be coupled with another Mini X. We got a 2022 Deere 50G. We got a 2018 750K LGP dozer. Really good lineup of just some supplemental construction equipment that fits just about any operation around the country. Got a 2024 T770 with 119 hours, much similar to the T770 you got sitting here in Sioux Falls, going to sell the day before. So you got an opportunity to buy two of them there in a couple of days. Lots of good semi-trailers. We got a 2022 side dumper. We've got a 2021 Felling RGN. We got three 2023 Timpty Super Hopper trailers, egg trailers with electric roll tarp. They're 42-footers, air ride suspension. We got two spray trailers. We've got three semis that are impeccable, immaculate. You're not going to find them any better anywhere else in the country. Lots of trailers, utility trailers. We got a fuel trailer. We got pickups, semis, service trucks. Then probably one of the nicest service pickups I've had an opportunity to offer to the public, a 2012 Dodge Ram 5500. All the harvest equipment you can ask for, a 2019 and 2021 Brent Avalanche grain carts. There's 2 of them. Corn headers right on down the line, a DB66 corn planter, all the tillage equipment you can ask for, anywhere from 55-foot chisel plows to 36-foot rippers. We got tremendous line of equipment right here in Fergus Falls, Minnesota. I kind of crammed it into the last second. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Andy Mrnak, Pfeiffer's Auction Realty and Land Management. You've been listening to America's Land Auctioneer. We will see you next week. In here now, what are you gonna do now? I'm gonna bid on here now. Who bid $500,000 bid?
We hope you've enjoyed today's edition of The Legacy of Agriculture with Chris Bair, sponsored by Pfeiffer's Auction, Realty, and Land Management. Call Pfeiffer's at 605-836-2277.